Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And in the series of thoughts and wondering months and everything that's going on in my head, um, well, this week I thought of talking about a like a favorite subject of mine, which is games. If you're not familiar with me and who I am, I'm Victor. Hello there. I am a gamer at heart. I have played a lot of games growing up and even now into my adulthood, and I like them. I love them. So I want to talk about some of the things that I think are perhaps lessons that we can learn from games. And I know that there's like a little bit of a stigma around games and around playing games, especially computer video games or something like that. So let's go with some of the pluses. Like what can we learn from games? Number one, that's language, actually. So I think language is a very important tool, and being articulate and trying to put your thoughts into words is a very difficult task sometimes. So being more familiar with the language, whatever that is, I myself, for me, English is a second language. So for me, developing my English skills and learning new words, new ways of using them was actually developed a lot through gaming, through playing games, and especially those that have, in-game dialogue or reading, where you need to read descriptions of skills, items, whatever it is that you need to do, quests, right? The tasks that you need to fulfill in a game. Those were all very big pluses, I think, in my English skills, and especially for reading and writing and listening as well, because, most of the time you don't speak in a game and you don't write, but listening and reading are two things that can be developed very well with video games, and whatever language that you want to do. I know that games have now they have multi-language support, which is quite awesome. I tried once playing a game to try to learn German. Man, that was that was kind of hard. I gotta say, it was kind of hard because I was also a beginner in German. So I think like you need some basics first, and when you get into the more advanced stuff and you can actually understand a bit of the dialogue, then you can hop into to learning like that. New way of learning language. Second one, the structure of systems, which is quite an interesting one. I think you can have a lot of structure in your mind, and it kind of puts it into the games they're all based on a structure, right? They have different trees, like skill trees, or different progression for the character, or for the, I don't know, depends on what kind of game it is. But if we're talking, for example, a role-playing game, you have a character and it develops, skills, leveling up, stuff like that, which I think is very familiar if you're familiar with gaming. So but that structure kind of helps you understand how the game works and what you need to do in order to succeed at the game. Because if the game is just, the progression is very linear and it doesn't really feel good as an experience. But when you feel that power boost, right, at a certain level, then wow, you're like, wow, now I'm really powerful, so I can really, really show that. And I think the systems behind it, trying to understand the system and deconstruct the system, is also a very useful way of looking at your mind and trying to understand how the thing works. And I think that's a useful skill to have. Third one, imagination, right? A lot of fantasy games out there, a lot of sci-fi. One of my favorites that I played, my favorite game is actually Gothic. I don't know how many people are familiar with that one, but it's been one of my favorite because of system that's actually behind it. So, but the imagination of the games, of the fantasy, sci-fi, and even the storytelling itself can lead to development of the imagination and trying to put put stuff out there and trying to understand it differently. And I was always fascinated with exploring different games just to see what sort of things did they come up with. Like, oh, what creatures am I fighting? What sort of units are there in this RTS game? Or yeah, it was quite fantastic to see the design of it and how they would interact, how you need to react in order to win a combat, for example, or a specific type of encounter. So yeah, I think that's imagination is something that is greatly developed with video games. And yes, let's move on. Number 4. I think one of the things that you always get in a game is resources. You can see it however you want, but most games are more upfront about it. Like, for example, an RTS like StarCraft or Warcraft, or whatever you like playing, Rise of Nations. These sort of games are straightforward with their resources. These are the resources that you have. Use them wisely. But there's more. For example, in role-playing games, you also have resources. You have the health of the character, which is a resource. You need to look at it as a resource. You have potions, perhaps different skills, which you can use only a certain amount of time, and then they are on cooldown, for example. So it's a very it's again resource management in a way, and it kind of helps you understand, oh, this is something big. I have a cooldown of, I don't know, 20 minutes on this skill. I'm going to use it only when I really need to, right? Like when it's so kind of understanding this sort of how the resources work is also a little bit tied into the system stuff, but I think is important for in real life as well. Like, it teaches you some skills of how to manage your resources and how to not squander them and to make the best out of it. Number 5, planning. How do you learn planning from video games? With turn-based games. So there are a lot of games where you have turn-based combat. For example, Divinity: Original Sin, or things like Heroes: Might and Magic. Heroes of Might and Magic. That's one of my all-time favorites. So these sort of games, they are turn-based. So you need to think ahead, a couple of moves ahead. Oh, what do I want to do? How do I want to place my units? How do I want to try to use my resources against, trying to know what enemy's resources are, and trying to use your own resources to defeat it as quickly and without casualty as you can. And I think that's goes into the planning type of you need to have resources, you need to access them, and make a plan on maybe if I go there, or right, what's going to happen. So kind of making a plan or strategizing, if you will, about what the next moves should be. Also in RTS games, there are different strategies that you can definitely apply. For example, in StarCraft, for example, right? If he has a certain type of unit, I need to build this other type of unit so that it can counter it and stuff like that. So you also plan for that. Like, I think he's building this, right, and I'm building that so that I can defeat him. Stuff like that. I think that's helpful as well in thinking about short-term, medium-term, and kind of long-term goals that you have also in real life. Number 6, which is a little bit on the nose, social skills. How do you learn social skills from a video game? Well, I think it's all again with the dialogue, like in the language part. I would say dialogue is very important, and it can teach you how do you phrase some ideas, especially as a kid, because or when learning a language. Um, you learn some social skills of, oh, how do I phrase this? For example, if it's a role-playing game, you can learn to phrase it in different ways, and that's kind of how the even though it's like a dialogue tree, you can only pick some things. It's not like in real life, but um, the character has its own flair of saying that thing, and you're like, oh, okay, that sounded. Did it sound positive? Did it sound negative? What kind of effect does it have on this other person, the other character that I'm speaking with? And I think it gives you a little bit of hints here and there of how interactions should go, or what do you want to get out of them. But again, it's just can't learn all the social skills from video games, but I think it can be a good addition. And myself being an introvert as well, I think it has helped me figure out like the structure behind it and how to phrase my thoughts and everything like that. So I think that's good. Plus, there are games like The Sims where the language is made up, right? It's just talking nonsense. But the choices that you need to do for interacting with another character, with another sim, right, kind of gives you an idea of how relationships work and how you can build relationships and how you can tear them down. So even though it's very crude in the way that it's described there, whereas social interactions are much more nuanced, I would say. In Sims, you kind of get it, like, oh, in order to build a good relationship with someone, you got to talk about this, you got to talk about different things, chat, because if you just chat all the time, it doesn't really build the relationship any in Sims, for example. Yeah, so I think that's a little bit tied into reality, and it's a kind of a more or less realistic part of Sims that you can use in real life. All right, moving on to number 7. Creativity. I think creativity is also part of most games where you have like problems and you need to think creatively in order to solve them. However, I want to mention one game that is I really like it. It's kind of a sandbox in a way, but has levels, so you need to go through all the levels. It's called Crayon Physics, and it's really fun. It's a really fun game, and it teaches you some things about physics as well. So I recommend it if you guys want to try it. I think it's quite cheap. I hope you can still find it. I played it when I was younger, and it was really fun and kind of had me doubting some of the things in my head about physics and how it can work better, and solving the problems in there. But creative thinking, I think you can definitely evolve it with video games, and problem solving as well, like some of the more difficult problem solving, which are based on also resources and structure, and it's a combination of all that. Next up, number 8, cooperation. I think that's important, especially when you have a team of players. Like there are certain games like Dota or League of Legends or even Counter-Strike or something like that, where you have a team of players that all want to have a common goal, right? They have a common goal to fulfill, and that's where you appreciate the diversity of it, right? If it's a diverse team with different talents, different skills, different things to do, different things to strong points and weak points, right? Then you can definitely make it shine in a way, and I think that's a really good skill to know, what works best and how to work together. And of course, you can tell when cooperation is falling apart in the team. So that's also a good skill to have, like a instinct on cooperation, and to evolve that as a person. Um, yes, number 9, competition, which is, the other side of the coin. Of course, a lot of the games that we play today and are online games, so you have multiplayer right into it, and I think that's, again, trying to develop a healthy competition sense. I want to say a healthy sense of competition, a fair sense of competition, is something that is very hard to do in a game, when you have to build the whole system around being balanced, more or less, right? Because you don't want to give unfair advantage to anyone. But I think that multiplayer games, considering we're playing with people, can definitely be competitive, and it can teach you, if you want to learn, of course, a lot about competition and how people try to win just for winning, not because anything else. So I think it's a great window to explore some of these thoughts. And number 10, perseverance, I think, is a very important one. Most times in games, when you explore a new game, you fail, try again, you fail, you try again, until you succeed. If you fail too many times, it's it can be seen as bad game design. But there are games that are based on failing, like this Dark Souls kind of genre, right? It's all based on, you die, you just get back up and try again, one more time, and you do it again and again until you actually get it, actually can move past that moment. And I think that's important also in real life, to have perseverance and to know when you need to continue, and also when you need to back down and learn more about the enemy or about what you're trying to do. Maybe you need to level up more. Maybe you need more resources. Maybe you can have some other resources and some things that you do not have, and you can take advantage of that and get them. And that will help you past a difficult moment in the game, which is you can do that in real life as well, to ask for the help of others and persevere through willpower and through strength, like inner strength. All right, now a bonus one, which I don't know how many of you saw this coming, but a bonus one. Games also can help you learn about yourself, which is a little bit, I think it's quite intuitive to think like that. Me, myself, I know that there are some games that, like I said, there are role-playing games that you are going into this character and into the mind of this character, more or less, and try to impose your will and your decisions on how the story progresses around this character. RTS games, they can teach you about different things, shooters, different things. So I think just knowing what kind of game you like can also tell you a little bit about yourself. I like turn-based games, which means you probably like to think more on your decisions rather than, I don't like Counter-Strike, right? Because it's all fast decision making. So it all develops different skills. Each game, I think, develops different skills, but knowing which one you like and which one you don't, and what you prefer, also is a little bit of a window into yourself. And I think it's always important to know yourself better. So yes, those are the things that I think you can learn from video games, and you can develop in yourself, and they will help you more the more you grow up, right? The more you mature. So yes, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments below, or write me whatever you want to do. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, to keep the video going, and see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for listening, and have a great day.